I'm thinking of leaving my GF of 3 years, who was assaulted after I was excluded from her recovery. I realize right up front that I am going to come across as a jerk and I will probably get lots of hate for this, but I'm looking for all points of view. Also, this is going to be very long because I just don't know what to leave out, and honestly I need to vent some. Here is the story. A year ago, actually a year and a month ago, my GF was raped as she was leaving work. Thankfully, she was not killed, however her attacker did threaten her with a knife. Fortunately, the store she works at had cameras in the parking lot, and between them getting video of the attack and the bank across the street getting the attacker's car on camera, the police were able to catch him within a day. Between the video and DNA testing, he did not even contest, he just pleaded guilty in exchange for not receiving the max. Since there were aggravating circumstances, the knife, the judge gave him a 20-year sentence, and with time for good behavior he can be out in about 10 years. Give or take. I tell you all of that to make it clear that her attacker is no longer a threat. She doesn't have to fear him coming back for her, at least for 10 years or so. Obviously, this was a very traumatic event in her life, and while I was not a victim per se, it was also very traumatic for me as well. I can't imagine what she has gone through, and I don't compare my situation to her at all. But I have had severe bouts of depression because I couldn't protect her, and knowing someone else was harming her sometimes was almost more than I could handle. Right after the incident, she did not want to see me. I get that, it hurt, but I understood. Her parents picked her up from the hospital and I did not see or hear from her for a week, which I sort of get, but I think I could have gotten a text or something just saying she was okay. Finally, a week and her sister calls me and lets me know that she is staying with her parents and she will be calling me in a couple of days. She never called me. Instead, I once again get a text from her sister saying she would like me to come over for a few minutes so we can talk. I get up and go over and am greeted at the door by her mother, who very calmly and very coldly starts laying out to me how I am to act and what I am to say. I am further instructed to not attempt to make any physical contact with her, as in hug or anything. Okay, again I get it. Major trauma, I'm sure they have been coached by therapists, counselors or something in what to say and do around her, so I play along. I walk in and she is sitting on a chair with her dad standing next to her and her sister sitting on the couch. As I walk in the room, the sister starts talking and telling me that my GF wants me to know that she is okay, but obviously she has been traumatized and appreciates my understanding in her recovery. She never said one single word to me and barely looked at me. Again, this was right after the event and I'm understanding that this is how it has to be. But honest to God, that entire conversation was just awkward as hell. I leave, go home and attempt to focus on how I can help her. I start Googling how to deal with a rape survivor and what I can expect. She starts going to therapy initially 2 times a week, then after 2 months it goes down to 1 day a week. In the meantime, she finally makes contact with me and asks to meet at a coffee shop. I get there and she is already there and waiting. At this point in time, they had her so medicated that I was dealing with a zombie for the most part. There was no emotion and she was very methodical in her speech. Basically, she wanted to get together that day to tell me that she couldn't go out with me for a while, until she got past some issues she was dealing with. Of course, I told her I understood. This was almost a month after the attack and this was our first conversation by ourselves, so I was already living under this assumption. I told her I would be there for her and that whatever she needed, whether that be space or a shoulder to cry on or anything, I was there for her. I started to tell her that I loved her and she stopped me. She told me that right now she didn't want to hear that and that I had to respect her wishes. I was once again a little hurt and frankly surprised, but I said whatever she wanted. She starts texting me the next day. Little things, nothing important, but I think it is a big step in getting back to where we were. This goes on for another month and a half. I finally ask her at the month and a half mark if we could meet for dinner. She didn't reply for 2 days and then said that she had to wait to talk to her therapist. Finally, she agrees to this but sets the date for another month away. Now mind you, this is almost 4 months after the attack, and so far I've had 1 physical conversation with her in person and 1 bizarre conversation with her and her family. Oh yeah, I need to mention this. I am not being updated on her progress by anyone. Granted, I realize that I am not officially family, nor am I entitled to anything, but it would have been nice to just get a text or call or something from someone telling me that she was doing good in therapy, or was not, or anything. We go out to eat at a small bistro that we ate at all of the time. I met her there and I was waiting for her to show up. After sitting for a half hour waiting, I text to see what was up. I just get a text of on my way. She finally arrives and sits down. I ask her how she has been and she snapped at me and told me to not ask her personal questions. We ate and after dinner I wanted to just sit and talk because I missed the person I had talked to almost every day for the previous 3 years. But when she was done eating, she said that she was ready to go home. I asked her if she could stay for just a few minutes to talk, but I could see that she was becoming physically anxious and I did not want to upset her, so I said that I loved her and missed her. She just walked away. She goes back to texting me the next day like nothing had been wrong. We actually start to see each other once a week for lunch and she is getting more and more comfortable with being out, so she sits and talks a while. She has also started a new job which she tells me about. This goes on for another 4 months. I'm happy to see her and all, but honestly I'm very lonely and we have not even so much as held hands. Then one day she doesn't show up for lunch. I text to see if she is okay, no reply. I call her parents to see if they know where she is and to make sure she is okay. I got the runaround from them, and by this time I am starting to get upset because I don't want to know where she was at or anything. I just wanted to know if she was okay. After actually saying that her mom says, yes she is okay but don't expect to hear from her for a while. Well, that makes me start to thinking she has had a relapse and is in the hospital. But what can I do? All I do is go home and try and take my mind off of it. 2 weeks pass with nothing from anybody. I'm trying my best to be reasonable here, but basically I call her sister and ask if she is still alive or what. She knew I was getting frustrated, so she apologizes, but that her sister told them to specifically not let me talk to her. At this point I break down. I don't know what I've done wrong here. I have not pushed her. I have not tried to get her to be with me in any way other than to just talk to me, and even then I have had very generic conversations so as to not upset her. I then get a text from her asking if I would meet with her at an address I wasn't familiar with, but once I looked it up I determined this was a therapist office. I am told be there at 4, which meant I had to leave work early to get there. I check in at the front desk and am told that the therapist wants to speak to me alone for a few minutes. She comes in and I now know where the parents were getting this from, because after formally greeting me she then started to provide me with a list of do's and don'ts. She then told me that my GF wanted to speak to me and had something to tell me. I go in and she is sitting on one chair and I am instructed to sit in the other. She has a box of tissues and has been crying. The therapist tells me that I am here because my GF has something to tell me and that she wanted the safety of therapist office to feel safe. She then proceeds to tell me that the reason she did not meet me for lunch that day is because she was with another guy, somebody from her new job, and that they had been intimate with each other. She might as well have taken a gun out and shot me. It couldn't have hurt anymore. I just drop my head and begin to cry. The therapist then pipes in with some logic about her taking back her sexuality since she was attacked and how this wasn't cheating in the same sense of cheating. My GF then proceeds to tell me that she does not want to lose me and that she is just very fucked up in the head and that it was a one-time thing and blah blah blah. I feel very trapped at that moment. I felt like I was ganged up on, and the more I sit the madder I got. I finally just said to her, "You haven't so much as held my hand in the past half year, yet you can go fuck some guy you met at work while I sit like a jackass waiting for my junior high like date." This of course caused her to go into hysterics and the therapist asked me to leave. I apologized and told her to text me if she wants to keep working this out. I get that text later that day. Now she is all chatty and shit telling me that this was the worst mistake of her life and please talk to her. I tell her that I don't know if I can go on with this but agree to meet her. I flat out tell her right up front when I see her that for me to even consider going forward with this that she has to cut this other guy off, period. She tells me that is impossible because they work together, and I tell her that I'm sorry but I won't even consider it if she is going to see this guy every day. She decides to find another job, and after talking with my sister, who I have told everything to, she said that while it is not common, some women do attempt to have sex after being attacked so that they feel like they have power again. Now why I am not the one who she did this with I have no idea, but I know I feel like I am being punished for something I did not even do. She changes jobs and we go back to our lunches, and I do this twice when I tell her that I am getting a little tired of just meeting for lunch and doing nothing else, so she agrees to come over to watch TV with me. That has been it up until tonight. Tonight she came over and we watched 2 movies and ate pizza. During the second movie I tried to give her a kiss. Nothing more, just a fucking kiss. She backs away as though I was a cross and she was a vampire and tells me she is not ready for that yet. Okay, not my finest moment here, I admit, but I tell her that it's been a fucking year and a month, and I have not tried one goddamn thing with her or forced her into anything, and yet she willingly fucked some other guy months ago, but here I am still waiting to hold hands. She of course starts crying, but this time I'm not as fast to apologize. I do apologize for the tone of my voice and tell her that I would never try and force her to do anything against her will, but honestly I feel like I have been kept on the outside. I've been cheated on and I feel like I have done everything to try and be a supportive I tell her that honestly I don't want her to text me until I decide what I am going to do. I don't want to be unfair to her, but by the same token, a year is a long time, and we are really no closer to being back to normal than we were 6 months ago, and I have no idea how long this will go on. Now here is the part where if you didn't think I was asshole before, you will now. I am just tired of not having sex. Look, I certainly understood not trying anything right afterwards, and even months afterwards. But it's been over a year, and we're not even holding hands, and frankly the fact that she has been with someone else since this incident is killing me inside. So I told her that I am going to think things through and promise to talk with her next week sometime. But as it stands tonight, I think I'm done. I love her. I hate the motherfucker who ruined both of our lives. I know this isn't her fault, and I hate that I feel like shit no matter what I do. If I stay, I am going to be resentful, and even if she comes over tomorrow and has sex with me, it will feel like either pity sex or desperation sex. But I know ending this will be punishing her for something that isn't her fault either. Advice. My god, this is way too long. TLDR, GF was raped over a year ago. In the meantime, I have given her space and let her deal with things as she deems fit. We have not been together sexually since the attack. She, on the other hand, has been with another guy since. I think I'm done, but looking for advice. Editor's note. Most commentators feel Poster is not wrong for wanting to leave, and is definitely not an ah. They point out that he's been excluded unfairly and has been overly patient with GF, and that no one has recognized that original Poster was a victim as well, and that GF cheated. There is also universal criticism for the therapist and the way she is handling GF's recovery. Then there were a few SAW survivors who commented, most along the lines of saying that GF is handling this completely inappropriately. First update. First, let me say that when I wrote my first post, I was obviously in a very bad place. That night's incident was very fresh on my mind, and the pain I was feeling at that moment was more than I could handle. I typed that out, which was cathartic to me, then decided to crawl into a bottle of Jim Beam. I called in sick yesterday from work, which was not a lie, as I had the hangover from hell and spent time alternating vomiting and laying with an ice bag on my head. I finally opened up Reddit last night, and to say that I was overwhelmed would be a massive understatement. I could not believe the number of messages I had in my inbox. I lost count, to be honest with you, but it was way in excess of 1K. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. There were so many people who opened up to me about their own experience, either being the victim or being the SO of a victim. Each of your stories touched me more than I could say. One in particular got to me, and I'm not going to lie, I sat at my keyboard and cried for 20 minutes reading his story. It was so eerily similar to mine that it was as if it was happening to me all over again. However, this was written from an older gentleman who went through virtually the same thing and had to make similar choices. Thank you, sir. I won't share any details since that was sent to me in confidence, but you truly touched me. That all being said, here I am today. Although universally I was told I was not an asshole and not in the wrong, it still doesn't feel right. I feel like an absolute failure, and that if I would have just been more assertive early on in the process, that we could have changed things. I don't think I made it clear enough how much I loved and still love her. Letting this relationship go is like saying I have to lose an arm. I haven't eaten any solid food since Sunday night. I know I have to quit drinking, but right now feeling numb is better than what I feel like I have to do. Before I go over my intentions, I do want to clear up a couple of things. As I said, I wrote that while I was still very upset and hurt, so I think I was probably either not clear enough or maybe painted a couple of people in a bad light. First, to her parents. Yes, I've known her parents since 3 weeks into our relationship. They have never been anything but kind to me, and we have eaten at their house twice a month since we have been together. My family has always celebrated Christmas on Christmas Eve, so I have spent 3 of the past 4 Christmases at her house with them. I do not fault or blame them. Their child was brutalized and traumatized, so they circled the wagon around her, which, while I do not have any kids, I certainly understand that she was top priority to them. Her dad has been as hurt as anyone by this, and I have been heartbroken to see this giant of a man broken like this. Her sister has honestly been my lifeline. She has talked with me and has always tried to be as open as she can with me. Yes, they knew about the cheating, and that is why I got the runaround. No, they did not support her decision to do this, however, they did not want to be involved other than be there for her. Second, her therapist might be incompetent. I have no way to judge that. However, in rereading what I typed, I think I made it come out worse than it really was. She did not try and excuse what she did, nor did she try and justify it, like I implied. After a few seconds of awkward silence that was only interrupted by my crying, she said that some women do that. Also, I did read where some people thought it was the therapist who recommended she do this, and that couldn't be farther from the truth. My GF told her in therapy what she had done, and she is the one who convinced my GF to tell me. They both agreed to do it there so she felt safe. I just wanted to clear those two things up because I did not do either of them any justice. My GF was my best friend. I confided in her for everything. I have some work associates that I am friendly with, but I am hundreds of miles from where I grew up, and all of my friends are there and either are married or very career driven, so I don't have what you would call a real support network. My sister has been there for me to a point, but there is a real complication to that even. My GF and my sister are best friends. In fact, it's how I met my GF. So while my sister loves me and wants what's best for me, she is also very sympathetic to her friend and doesn't want me to do anything to hurt either of us. She does not support her in the cheating but has tried to basically smooth that over. She does not know though that we have not been together sexually since the rape. Honestly, that is none of her business, and I think she would be really disgusted with me if I let her think that this even had anything to do with it. My GF has been blowing up my phone with texts since Sunday night. She is saying everything that I have wanted her to say since about a month after the rape. I've gotten more I love yous in the past day than I have in the past year. I've only responded twice to her, so she does know I'm reading them. That is making the next part very hard to do. I came to the decision last night, early this morning, that for my own mental well-being I can't do this anymore. Believe me when I say that I know what a failure it is and how horrible it makes me feel. So here is my plan. I know it is chicken shit on my part, but I have typed a letter and I am going to send it to her therapist for my GF to read in her office. That way there is immediate support for her. I don't want her to be any more abandoned than what I am going to be doing. That is heartbreaking to type BTW. When she goes for her appointment Friday morning, I will then send emails to her parents and a text to her sister informing them of what is happening so that way they can be there for her when she gets out. Here is word for word the letter I have written her. The only thing that is different is that I am no using her or her therapist's real names here. Please read it and let me know if I am out of line or if I am too cruel or if this will trigger any type of mental trauma related to her rape. I have zero intention of inflicting any more pain than what is normal with a breakup. Dear Sarah, I know that this is not the best way of doing this, but honestly if I had to look you in the eyes, I know I could not go through with this. I have loved you since the first month we have been together, and the first 3 years of our relationship were the best 3 years of my life. You were my everything, and I know that we had both talked about marriage a lot, and I know and believe with all of my heart that we were going to be married. Nothing would have made me any more happy or proud than to be called your husband. I don't know how to say this because every fiber of my being does not want to say this, but for my own mental health going forward I have to let you go. Believe me when I say that decision did not come easily to me, nor can I say that it is not heartbreaking on my end. I have always and still love you, but I can't be with you anymore. You need to heal and you need to be able to 100% focus on you while you are healing, and having to worry about me and my feelings is only getting in the way of your healing. I will always hate the bastard who did this to you. He has ruined so many lives that life in prison seems a lot more appropriate than what he got. But I don't get to make that call. I know holding on to hate is not healthy, but he has ruined my life as well as yours. I know you are going to hate me for this. I don't blame you at all. I know that you feel abandoned, but please understand I have done everything in my power to be there for you. I wanted to be more involved in your healing, but for whatever reason I was somewhat excluded from being a significant part of your inner circle. This has left me feeling very lonely and alienated from you and your family. I wanted nothing but the best for you and wanted to be there for you, and I hope I was whenever you would let me. I won't lie. You seeking comfort in the arms of another while still to this day denying me any affection has weighed very heavily on me. I did then and I do now forgive you, but forgiving does not take away the soul-crushing pain that comes along with that. I understand to a point why you might have done it. I don't agree with it and I never will, but I maybe see why. However, that has nothing to do with the fact that we are 1 year and a month past your incident, and you still treat me as though I did something wrong or will do something wrong to you. When you withdrew the other night from my attempt at a kiss, I knew then that you were still in need of healing, and I have no idea how long that will be. But I can't put my life on hold indefinitely, which is where we are still. I know it is very selfish of me, but I need affection. I need both mental and physical intimacy. Our conversations have been both generic and bland for the past year, which believe me I can understand why. But we used to spend hours talking about our future and what we wanted. Now at best we talk about what movies we want to watch. What I am doing is in no way because of what happened to you. That event was horrible and was life-changing for you, and I never ever had a second thought about you because of it. This is all about your recovery and how you have to heal. For whatever reasons you may not even know yourself, you have completely distanced yourself from me. I've tried with all of my heart to get back to you, but it is painfully apparent that I am no closer to you now than I was right after the incident. Also, to be very clear so you do not think this is about anything else. There is no one else. I am not seeing anyone. I don't have eyes for anyone, nor do I think anytime soon I will. I am not now, nor have I ever cheated on you. I hope with all of my heart for you to be fully healed soon. I want you to be happy. I hope someday you can look back on our time together with fondness and find it in your heart to forgive me. I will always love you. This breaks my heart more than you will ever know. Love, Chad. Thank you again to everybody. I know I type a boatload, but it just feels good to get this out. I have to have it to her therapist by tomorrow. Now the question is, do I have the fortitude to send it? TLDR, I have written her a letter and need advice. Second update, I have learned several things recently. First thing is that I had no idea how many English teachers, lit majors, and overall editors were actually Redditors. LOL, I had so many posts just correcting my obvious and admitted horrible spelling and grammar that I began to have a complex. In all seriousness, thank you for those of you who took the time to edit that for format, grammar, and spelling. I even appreciate those of you who took the time to provide me with written documentations and reasons as to why my errors were errors. Second thing I've learned is that this is really a loving and caring community for the most part. I have been given numbers to call, emails to read, and lists of things to read to help me on my journey. I deeply appreciate the very moving stories I have been told, and believe it or not, I have read every one of them, even though at last count I was close to 2,500 messages. People have offered to buy me drinks, hang out, and I even got one offer for a hand job to relieve my stress, which was both flattering and amusing all at the same time. However, the main thing that I have learned recently is to never sign your real name to an open public letter if you don't want it to somehow get back to the people in your life. It makes it a little hard to deny it was you when every single detail is the same and you use your own dumbass name. Many people wanted an update about how things went. Simply put, it didn't. In review, I had written the letter and then with the help of several Redditors had rewritten the letter with better format. And I did edit out the part that the rapist ruined her because I agreed that this was not an appropriate thing to say. In fact, I almost edited him out altogether, other than saying I wish he had gotten a longer sentence. However, I did leave in the part about being her husband. I know a lot of people wanted me to take that out, but I just felt deeply that I had to say that. I can't really explain why. Of course, my intention originally was to mail it to her therapist office with instructions for what to say. But I knew there was zero chance that she would get it in time, so I was going to take it to her and see if I could speak with her. Notice how that was all in the past tense as in what I was going to do. Well, I never got the chance. Wednesday night, late night in fact, I have a knock on my door. Lo and behold, it is her sister and my sister together. Her sister was holding papers in her hands and my sister walks in and her sister walks in with her. Obviously something is up, so I ask what's wrong and her sister hands me a printout of my posts and the replies to my previous 2 threads, and she simply asks, "Is this you?" At first I tried to deny it. I couldn't really remember everything I had written, in particular the first post, so I was kind of trying to avoid any problems if I said something I shouldn't have. But my sister just straight up got in my face and told me to stop fucking lying, which by then I was caught. I knew and she knew it. I just dropped my head. This then led to a very long conversation that lasted till the wee hours of the morning. At first her sister was very much emotional because of course she loves her sister and was crying, asking me how I could want to do this to her. Much to my surprise though, my sister stood up for me here and actually kind of ripped her sister a new asshole. She said that I had gone way beyond what most people had and that Sarah should not 1 year later still be withholding affection from me. She had no idea that we still weren't physically as close as we once were. Like I said, I never told her. Once my sister got done talking, Susan said that in reality she knew that she was right. She begged me to not go through with my letter. She said that I had promised to give Sarah a week. She then gave a very impassioned speech about how much she can tell I still love her and how much she knows she still loves me. My sister also agreed that there was too much love present in my heart to just do this right away. She said, and it made sense at the time, what is another week compared to what you have been through? So long story short, I agreed to not take the letter over. Whether it was guilt, regret, or love, I can't say, but I agreed to it. This then led the single most embarrassing thing in my life happening. Susan gave me a very big hug and cried as they were leaving. It's been a very long time since I've had any type of close contact, and let's just say it's not a lot of fun being called a disgusting pig by your sister. All I could do was say how very sorry and how embarrassed I was. Fortunately, Susan seemed to take it in stride. She just wanted to make sure that I would talk with Sarah the next day. Even though I was a virtual zombie from lack of sleep, I went ahead and went to work. I have lots of PTO time available to me, but I didn't want to burn it all up over this in case I needed time later. I got home from work and my intention was to go straight to bed after eating dinner, and maybe watching some TV. That went to hell in a hurry as I was eating my dinner when someone is knocking on my door again. This time it was Susan and Sarah. This time Sarah is holding the printout. You can tell they both had been crying and Susan asked if they could come in. I just shook my head yes because I was honestly a little nervous, and no matter what she has done or not done, seeing Sarah emotional always upsets me, and she physically looked horrible. I mean as bad as she did after the rape. They sat on the couch and Sarah already has tears streaming down her face. We all kind of just sat there for what seemed like an eternity looking at each other. I wasn't going to speak first. I had no idea what to say or do, so I just sat there. Eventually I broke though and asked Sarah if she wanted some water or something to drink. She actually said yes, so I got up and went to the kitchen to get her a glass of ice water. And when I turned around, she was standing right behind me. All she said to me was, "Are you really going to leave me?" I couldn't answer. I just looked into her eyes and felt broken and ashamed. We went and sat down, but this time she sat next to me. She started to read my first post to me but could not make it through it. Susan jumps in at this point and says they had spent the day talking and they had gone over the post and most of the replies and said that Sarah was very sorry for how she treated me. She said that they have spoken to their parents and everybody agrees that the way I was treated was not fair. Seeing it in writing really struck a nerve with all of them because they could see how hurt I was, and that even though I could have blamed all of them, that I didn't. Sarah is shaking her head yes the entire time. Sarah then managed to talk and just laid out how she obviously did not give me enough consideration, and that she now sees that what she did was horrible to me when I have been nothing but compassionate and loving towards her. She begged me for another chance. She said that sometimes in life you need a kick in the ass to get moving, and she said me wanting to break up with her was her wake-up call. She can't and won't take me for granted and said she had a year's worth of apologizing to do to me. Susan actually very calmly said that they had spoken at length in the afternoon about her infidelity, and then not even touching me. Sarah then replied that she had no real excuses. She knows that what she did was horrible and that she had no right to ask me for forgiveness but was going to anyway. She also said that she is making it the top priority of her life that she talk with her therapist to get past any physical limitations she has with me. This went on for a long time BTW. I could give you a lot more of what was said, but this is already a wall of text as it is. The one thing though that I want to say is that while she was talking to me, she was holding my hand. She reached out and took it. Now I realize that she read my posts, and I made a big deal about that in my posts. But whether she did it because she read it or just did it on her own, I won't deny that it felt really good. They ended up staying the night. No, before you get any crazy porn movie ideas, nothing happened between any of us. Susan slept on the futon and Sarah on the couch, and I actually went to my bed. I called an early Thursday morning to work before I went to bed as I knew that I would not be able to function on so little sleep. I get awoken around 10 by Sarah sitting next to me in the bed, rubbing her hands on my arm to wake me up. She said that they were getting ready to leave because she had moved up her therapy session to 11, and she didn't want to leave without her telling me how much she loved me and to let me know she was coming right back after the session. She leaned over and kissed me. It wasn't a long passionate kiss, in fact it was just kind of a quick kiss, but right on the lips. This was a mistake, I'm sure, because that broke my resolve right there. Up until that point I was still holding on to the thought that this was all just words and that it took me threatening to leave her to get her to even pay attention to me. 1 p.m. I got from a rape survivor kept going over in my head that if she was able to come around because of the threat of me leaving, then this was not all due to her emotional trauma, because if it was due to that, then no threat of me leaving was going to change this. But between my sister, her sister, and her, every wall that I was building to protect myself was crumbling, and that kiss pretty much was the wrecking ball that tore them all down. I went back to sleep, and around 1 she shows back up at my place carrying lunch. Susan was not in tow, so it was just going to be the two of us. We ended up spending the afternoon together. We ended up spending the weekend together. Yes, you can infer from that what occurred between us. I'll just say that I was probably more scared about it than she was. I was worried about triggering anything or saying or doing anything that would upset her. She, on the other hand, was very loving and emotional about it. She cried afterwards for a good long while, which caused me to freak, but she said it was a combination of joy and regret, that she had forgotten how love felt and it just kind of overwhelmed her. We laid there for hours. She had the recommendation from her therapist for a couples counselor who we are going to start seeing next week. I know this isn't what a lot of people wanted to read, and all I can say is that I'm sorry to disappoint you, and yes, I am prepared for the plethora of name-calling from some people, but at the end of the day I have to worry about myself and my happiness here. For the first time in over a year I have been happy for 4 days. I know that this isn't the end, that we are still going to have hurdles to overcome. I honestly believe that this was a wake-up call for her. If not, then why go through all of the emotional drama and turmoil? Wouldn't she just let it go? Bottom line is I love her. I have always loved her, and all I wanted was for her to show me she loved me as well. This past weekend was a really bonding experience for me and for her as well. I think we can build something new together. Thank you, Reddit. I felt the love from you guys as well. I am ultimately a very lucky man. TLDR, got caught with my Reddit postings. My sister and her sister convinced me to not go through with the letter. Her sister and her came over and she said things that she needed to say and let me say what I needed to say. We spent 3 straight days together and it was heaven. We are going to couples counseling. I'm happy with the end result. Relevant comments. The comments on this post are worth reading, but too numerous for me to include in this already long post. Most commentators feel that the original poster is still being manipulated by GF and her family, and that this will not end well. Final update. It is amazing that I am still getting anywhere between 6-7 PMs a day with people offering me advice, wishing me well, and wanting to know what happened. I was just going to delete this account because, as we all know, both of our families and all of our friends have now seen and read my posts. Hell, even a co-worker figured it out and has been giving me his advice. My last post on our relationships did not go over so well. In fact, I received twice the amount of hate PMs in that one than I did any other type of PM combined. A lot of them were heartfelt disappointment in me, and some of them were downright vile in nature. I don't even want to repeat here what was said to me. I ended up on another subreddit because my posts had been linked to them. It certainly was an eye-opening experience for me. Growing up, I've always been taught certain views, and then to see a group of people go against the grain, so to speak, and do so without shame or apology was a new experience for me. In talking with them, I did let them know that there was a new development that occurred last week and that she wanted me to attend her Friday therapy session with her to provide me with additional information regarding things that had happened over the past year, specifically in regards to her being with someone else. Also, full disclosure here, what I am about to say is with her consent. She is not happy about it, but she also knows, since all of our friends and family will be reading this, that this was the only way to get it out all at once, because they already thought the worst of her anyway, which she is heartbroken over BTW and she wants her friends back. I went to the office and was expecting the absolute worst. I was expecting that she either had been with other people as well or she had been with this guy since she agreed to quit. In fact, I stupidly said in that other sub that if this were the case I was done, no questions asked. I actually got there before she did and got to sit in awkward silence in the waiting room until she came in. Brief chit-chat and pleasantries exchanged, but I was already super nervous. The therapist tells me that Sarah has something she wants me to see, and she hands me a handwritten journal that she has been keeping since the first week they started therapy. Sarah starts bawling and buries her face in her lap, and there are 2 post-it notes being used as bookmarks that I am to read. The first post-it note was very early in the book, and in it she describes our first meeting at her parents' house from her point of view. In the book she wrote Chad was very cold and distant from me, and goes on to talk about wondering if I thought she did this on purpose and if she was ruined. It kept spiraling down until she started to have bitter feelings towards me because of it. If you remember from my very first post, I was instructed to act this way by her mother. She said when she saw my post it immediately struck her that we were both talking about the same night. She has since confronted her mother about this and confirmed my version of the story. As it turns out, this was not the advice of the therapist, nor was this advice from a doctor. This was advice they were given by a rape advocate who was with Sarah in the This woman literally told them to not let me near her until she wanted me there. Nobody ever asked her. She thought I didn't want to be there. This was more of a kick in the gut than I can describe accurately. Every single damn thing that went downhill from there was because a man-hating woman told them to keep us apart. I have already filed a complaint with the hospital administration, and they have asked for a written statement which I am sending to them. How fucking different would the last year have been if this person had not interjected herself into our lives? Both of us thought neither of us initially wanted to be around the other, when in fact that was the furthest thing from the truth. Now honestly, it does not explain everything else that happened, like her distance with me even almost a year later, but that was the catalyst for everything. We spent almost the entire hour talking about that part, then I went to read the second post-it note that was about midway through the journal. I have to be very careful with what I say here. She wrote very vividly about the day it occurred, and two things are coming from this. One I now know, which I did not until I read the journal, that she had been placed under a 72-hour detention at the hospital. Apparently the night it occurred she took an entire bottle of Xanax and Ambien. Her sister is the one who found her, and she was told by Sarah to not ever tell me about that. Second, and I'll just say it like this, I can't say rape, but I will certainly say taken advantage of. It was her second day at the new job and she was working the second shift, and a group of people was in the break room eating. She was the new girl, and this is an all-male workforce, minus her and 3 other women who work in the office area of a very large maintenance shop and tow truck business. Of course, being the new person, they were all very friendly, trying to get to know her better. She wrote that one guy sat right next to her and kept talking to her and asking about her, and as the others were leaving to go back to their work, she was getting up and douchebag grabbed her thigh and told her to hold on and not be in a rush. She wrote that once he grabbed her thigh, she froze up in fear. She had no idea what to do or what was happening, but eventually when everyone else was gone, he started to kiss her and finger her. At this point in time, someone walked past the door, so he backed off and she was able to leave. She was able to leave that night without having to see him again. The journal was handwritten in several different colors of ink, and if she did just write this before we went there, she would have had to handwrite in excess of 100 pages. So this leads me to asking several questions, not the least of which is, why did you let me think that you had cheated on me for almost 6 months without ever telling me what actually happened? In her mind, she said that she felt like she didn't stop him and that she thought I would consider it cheating anyway, no matter how it happened. She also said that she felt very guilty about not saying no, or anything for that matter, and that is what led her to take the pills. The unprotected sex part was my own fault to an extent. I never got the full story at the therapist office, so what I asked was, did he use a condom? And when she said no, I kind of exploded. So her telling me that she didn't use a condom was because they didn't actually have sex. Oh, douchebag got his jollies feeling up my girl, but that was it. She had even told her therapist that she had cheated on me and never told her the extent of the story until recently. So when we went to the first meeting, the therapist was acting on the same information I was. So that happened Friday. I told her that I needed some time to process my thoughts and would get a hold of her on Saturday. I exited and she stayed behind to do some one-on-one with her therapist. At the end of the day, I think a lot of this has been very much dumb luck. But dumb luck doesn't take away the bitterness I have built up over the past year. I came to some conclusions Friday night and Saturday, and I went over them with her on Sunday. I feel like I have taken a backseat to everybody and everything for over a year now. I've placed my life on hold and honestly felt neglected. I now see some of that was due to outside interference, but I also see some of that is my fault for not standing up for myself and letting this get out of my control. So while I know this is really going to piss some of you off, here is where it stands and likely be the last thing I say on it. I want her back in my life. She wants to be in my life. I love her and she loves me. That being said, I have to put myself in a place where she can be a part of my life, not just me trying to fit into hers. I will be involved from Sunday forward in all parts of her recovery. I will be consulted on any changes, progress, or updates. She is going to be moving back in with me, but not until after I return from a vacation. I am taking 1 week all to myself and I am going on vacation. I would have been happy to go somewhere with her, but since she has changed jobs, she has no time off available to her. I have enrolled both of us in a self-defense class. Thank you to one of the members of that other sub for suggesting this. She thought this was a great idea and really likes that we can do this together. Her family and I had a heart-to-heart Monday night. I got a lot of things off of my chest that I had wanted to say, and to their credit, they never got mad or defensive. I know for a fact that they were doing what they thought was best for Sarah. Yes, her sister was teasing me about my accident with her. I'm not sure who had more fun making me turn red, Sarah or Susan. But in the end, they also agreed to making me part of the team. Overall, the rest of the week has been kind of business as usual. She has absolutely kept her word about trying to make things right. She is much more the Sarah I remember. We both know that we have a long way to go, but we both believe in each other. TLDR, found out man-hating rope advocate was the initial problem as to why we were kept apart. In therapy, found out she didn't cheat. She was molested, for lack of a better word. We are working things out, but I am changing up how I live my life in a lot of new ways. Things are good overall, and this should be me signing off.